Yeah, I got to make sure I'm prepared, just like you are for your son. I got to prepare for my wife.
Okay. Oh, she's going.
Oh yeah, I'm dragging her out.
Okay.
Yeah, she's
She a big NASCAR gal?
I don't know, probably not.
It is something to see it in person, though.
I know she likes speed though.
Well,
she's fascinated with trucks, cars, everybody's she's like, man, I want. Yeah, so I'm sure she's excited and everything else about it, just because this will be her first experience.
TV doesn't do it justice. It's one of those things. It's like hockey. I like watching hockey on TV, okay? Postseason hockey is great on TV. The excitement, heck, it was an exciting ending to the game last night. Nobody knew who'd won for however long. That was kind of a mess, anticlimactic. But when I started going to see hockey in person, I'm like, okay, now I get this. Because you can see everything that's going on, not just what they're showing on TV. Well, NASCAR, they start those things up. They sound like jet airplanes, each one of them. And they have just how loud it is. And the other thing that doesn't do it justice, if you watch a race on TV, you're just seeing cameras kind of zoomed in on cars and they're making laps. When you see it in person, you realize, oh my gosh, these guys are going so fast and they're 6 inches away from each other. And sometimes they bump into each other and they just keep on trucking. So my son has never been to a NASCAR race, so he is beyond excited to go check this out.
Yeah, that's why it's kind of weird, because my wife gets nervous if somebody just gradually starts leaning in their lane and going past the line. She'll literally break. I was like, no, you got to trust that they're going to stay in their lane. She said, no, I got to keep driving. I said, no, you do have to keep driving, but don't be scared and just start swerving into their lane. Then you go hit somebody else. Toot your whore. Yeah. She does not trust other drivers, so this is kind of really odd to see if she could ever be a race car driver.
Well,
no way, no how.
She's going to see it all on Saturday. Meanwhile, so the track is rocking out there. Meanwhile, Preds had a news conference. Bill Haslam, who's the new owner, I saw Teresa Walker tweet this out before anything got started. And Lucas, I heard you and Buck talking about this. There wasn't really live anything. So it was just whoever was updating this.
Apparently they were all speaking at the same time at one point. Haslam, Poyle, Sean Henry, Herb Fitch, all at the same time.
Like when we get so that's the way the Titans do assistant coaches.
Right.
Like you can get the running backs coach or the inside linebackers coach,
You're just running around with your head.
You're just running around with your head. Not about an ownership change.
Yeah, it's big news.
So I saw Teresa Walker had tweeted this before anything got started. Haslam will have a minority share of Preds ownership this fall, and the plan is for him to have a majority share in 3 years, 4 at most. So then I started thinking, okay, and I know you've got a little bit of this audio, right? And I started thinking, okay, if David Poyle's speaking, somebody's got to ask him about Philip Forsberg, because that's the one thing we all want to know about, right? I mean, that's the thing that's kind of hanging over this deal. And did you get the audio that I sent you? So David Poyle, I want to make sure that I attribute it. Let me click on the young lady's name, the new weekend reporter, sports reporter.
Nikki
Latarullo from Channel 4, who I met. Very, very nice person. I met her at Titans practice. She tweeted this out. This was David Poyle. So we can get into the ownership stuff. But I know you want to know about Philip Forsberg. This is what David Poyle told Nikki Latarullo and other media members about Philip Forsberg.
Because, Philip is, in my conversations, he wants to be here, all these things. It's really down to a business decision. It's nothing about him not wanting to be here and to go somewhere else. It's a business decision. And we're trying to run the franchise correctly and what we think is the appropriate number, not only as a player for him, but it also gets into what we need to be able to put a good team together, which is Philip's team for the, if we're offering him an 8-year contract, it's Philip's team for the next 8 years. So, he has to hopefully have a little bit of a buy-in to understanding that.
So David Poyle, in a room full of other people talking, sorry, that's...
please translate, because that was absolutely horrible.
Yeah, that's the best you can do when everybody's talking. So
and they didn't have an official, microphone and podium and stage. Every bit of audio had to be just phones and TV mics.
Yeah. But what I get
seems like a mistake.
He said that they offered him an 8-year deal.
Yeah, that's what I got out of it too.
That came out of it, but we don't know the number of what it was per year. And that he wanted to stay here, but it's a business decision, and they want to make sure that they're making the right business decision for the organization as well. That's pretty much kind of what I took from it.
But he didn't seem optimistic in some of the other things he said.
Oh, really? What was some of the other things, since I couldn't decipher some of those things? Did you, Mickey? What were some of the other things there?
I'm going to pull up this quote that I saw on social media from Poyle. Am I concerned? Absolutely. It would have been very good if we could have had this done a lot earlier. There's certain things you would do or could do if Phillip was signed, and there's certain things you can't do. Now we're in a situation where we're formulating all sorts of different plans because we have to be ready for either scenario. It's not where I want to be.
Say the beginning part of that again. I'm trying to decipher what he's actually trying to say.
Am I concerned? Absolutely.
But what was the part where he's talking about if he could have signed him earlier? What did he say?
It would have been very good if we could have had this done a lot earlier. I think Poyle wanted this done and dusted a month ago, 2 months ago.
Okay, now that's why I wanted to hear that. Now, how do you take that? I'm going to give you my version of what I think he's saying there without throwing people under the bus. Our ownership group, maybe we didn't want to spend that kind of money, so I was handcuffed. I wanted to sign him earlier. Now we're in a position where now it's going to be tough to sign him because of where we at, and now why would he sign now unless he gets what he wants? And probably knows what's out there on the market for him. But with new ownership, maybe there's a possibility that we can keep him, but that's a long shot. That's how I take what he said. I could be totally wrong, but that's what I'm taking from it. Because I all along said I thought it was the ownership group when you got 16 people trying to manage and trying to sign a guy, and he's not signed yet, and it's taking so long, and then you even past the point where you can't trade him, and then you're just going to lose out and give him away for free. There are some issues there up top. That's what you take from it. And I think that's where he's at, and he's kind of the middle guy here, and he has to get signed off on whenever he's trying to sign a player of this magnitude for this kind of money. And he's not getting that kind of pat on the back like, go, get him done.
Here's the check.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
David Poyle, I saw a similar quote. I think this was from Alex Doherty, who tweeted out, David Poyle is also here. He says he doesn't have anything new on the Phillip Forsberg front. This is a quote in quotes. I wish it was done. So there's that again. Poyle adds, free agency begins on July 13th. So if you're Phillip Forsberg now, you're not. Unless
you don't sign it unless you get exactly what you want.
Exactly what you want.
Yeah, like 2-3 weeks.
You have eBay has the buy it now price. So if you're Forsberg's agent, you tell the Preds, this is the buy it now price. It's 8 years and it's this much money. You want him? If not, we're going to go and stand outside on the sidewalk on July 13th and just see who all shows up to talk to us.
With a for sale sign.
That agent has already got 3 teams.
Oh, he knows what he's getting. Yeah,
and knows where he's going to go possibly and who's going to pay the most amount of money. You have to, if you're going to take it. If not, then you stay at home and you stay here and you get a deal done. But you got to still play as though we're going to go on the market. Yeah, because he may not have anything. Yeah, he doesn't know. I mean, he's talking behind the scenes and everything else, but you never know. You always say, we'll take the 8. If y'all give us 9 now, we'll take it.
And the Preds are a fantastic case study of paid Kyle Turris, a lot of money, didn't work out. Paid Roman Josi a lot of money, and he got even better. He got better with the money. His pockets didn't get heavy at all. He got better. Heck, he should have won the dang Norris Trophy. He got screwed.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, he got
bamboozled.
He got bam-scroozled. You can add the 2 words together.
That's a drop there. That's a soundbite there. Yeah.
What they did to him was just beyond stupid. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, that's voter fraud is what that is. We're not a political show, but that's NHL voter fraud. I kind of take what you take, Blaine. In a lot of ways, it's like Poyle saying, I'd like to gotten this done a long time ago. If that dude leaves, and
that's why I think he's talking like that now, because he's already building up.
Is he prepping people for low expectations?
Yeah, and that is not me. It is not. I would have got this done. Really? Well, tell us something we don't know. That's why he said he's trying to backpedal out of it. It's more than just me is trying to make this decision, and my hands are tied. That's what it tells me.
I started writing down all these notes when Boston made. And I know Boston didn't win; they got beat by Golden State. But people started tweeting the timeline of how their team got built, and they basically said, "Okay, we'll go and be bad." And we'll trade away assets. And then it started showing this is who they got for this trade. And this is who they got. It showed how the Celtics got built. They were willing to get bad to get good again. And you had a chance.
The NBA actually does this a lot more.
They'll cycle through it.
And most people think it's just, usually the Celtics is not a big brand team. It's not
to be willing to get bad to get good again. Normally they'd stay good.
Surprising about what you just said, yeah.
So you had a chance for whatever assets you could have got, you decided, let's hold on to him. Let's make our run. Well, the run ended in the first round of the playoffs. You didn't get out of the first round of the playoffs again, even with him having the greatest year that he's ever had. Having the greatest year the franchise has ever seen anybody have. So as far as goal scoring, I mean, he and Duchesne both. If you wind up getting nothing out of that but one final first-round playoff exit, when you could have at least gotten – and I know everybody's talked about this.
Well, could they made it to the second round if they hadn't played Colorado? I mean, just think about that now. Like, based off of that, what they're doing here to Tampa Bay, the two-time champ, 3 times. Yeah, possibly 3, but it looks like it's going to be over now after that.
Oh, man, they ran into a buzzsaw. I mean,
So, I mean, if they would have matched up with somebody else, they might have made it to the second round. We don't know. So then would you feel any different? They made it to the second round? Or do you feel any different that they lost to Colorado? I mean, they're going to win it.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That's a great question. What if they made the second round? They're like, well, they made the second round. That's the farthest they've gone in years, since pre-COVID.
I mean, they're just running through people, and they're just now really running into a little bit of trouble after winning last night in overtime. And you can't even say that. I mean, man, they're gonna win it, whether next game or the one after.
Well, I do wonder, and you're right. I'm saying that more metaphorically, that his agent's going to go out on the sidewalk and say, "What have you got?" But in real life, the agent knows this team's offering this much, and this team's offering this much, and this team. And you're obviously going to try to inflate that some with the Preds. Like, I don't know, man. I think we can get this much, so this is what we're going to need to buy it now for. But
would you sign him, and for what amount?
At one point, Lucas, what was the prevailing number for Forsberg? It was like 8 years at
8 or 9.
Was it 8 at 8 or 8 at 9
per?
I think 9 per. I mean, we started talking about, though, near the end of the regular season, projections from like NHL, capologist, salary analysts with the Athletic of like a 10-11 range.
Ooh.
So I've seen it from 8 to 11 per year.
Oh, man.
They can't do 11.
11 is very high. Yeah, I'd be surprised if that's what he got. But it's a career year. He's a 40-goal scorer.
Yeah,
and just
9
had the
and
best
a
year of his
half.
career.
That's it. We're done. I just negotiated it.
Are you ready to do that, though? I mean, that's woo.
Yeah, maybe that's why they're bringing in some heavy hitters, and that means one person named Haslam. Yep.
Well, we got to go because we're going to start talking to the SEC opponents of the Vols coming up. We got, there's some weird stuff in the Zone TV chat today. Graham Hall, who covers the Florida Gators, is going to join us next. We'll get a preview on the Gators, but we can get into this some more later on in the show. And I wrote down this, and I know we got to go, Lucas, but I put 3 stars. When the Titans got new ownership with Amy Adams Strunk, remember how big that was? Because she was like, "Yeah, I'll rebuild the whole thing." Oh yeah, sure. What do you need money for?
And it was the same family.
Yeah, it completely changed.
I can tell you this, out of much respect, it seems like it was run by a whole different other family and organization of the people involved.
But does Haslam offer an infusion of cash, maybe, to say, "Yeah, I'll go give him 9.5 for 8 years. I don't care. Take that out of my couch."
But his maybe power in how much clout he has doesn't really arrive until 3 years.
Maybe not, because
where does that go?
He talked about that, kind of where all that fits in. We can play all that later, but when we come back, let's switch gears. We'll talk some SEC football. Graham Hall, who covers the Florida Gators for the Gainesville Sun, will join us next. Time to start previewing teams, y'all. It'll be here in like a couple of months. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Ooh, I like the sound of that music. Motley Crue, Def Leppard bringing their stadium tour to Nissan Stadium, which makes sense. That's where you would take a stadium tour on June 30th with special guest Poison and Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. It's like everything that was in my tape deck in the 80s. In 104.5 The Zone, they got your chance to win tickets. So you can sign up. Is this right, Lucas? Sign up for your chance to win today at 1045thezone.com. Something tells me you will see me at that show. I've never missed a Motley Crue tour in my life.
Don't start now.
I don't know what that says about me, but I've never missed a Motley Crue tour in my life. I don't know if Graham Hall's ever seen Motley Crue in concert, but he covers the Florida Gators for the Gainesville Sun. Graham, welcome in. What's your favorite Motley Crue show that you've ever seen?
Oh, man. Can I say Pam and Tommy? Does that count on Hulu? Is that a cop-out answer?
No.
I like that.
It's a great show. It's a great show. I can confirm this.
And I'm not talking about the original that came out when LimeWire was a thing and I was a kid. I'm talking about the Hulu show. I mean, that's a great homage to Motley Crue. You know, everyone just knows Tommy Lee and, the legend behind him. I mean, he's a fantastic talent, but so often that is lost in the viral headlines, the Pamela Anderson. And so it's good to hear you guys actually put some respect on the band's name. I'll say that.
Well, we were probably a little older than you, especially me. So
oh, yeah.
I saw them in concert in 1984, if that gives you any idea what you're dealing with here.
I was born 9 years later, not to humble you guys or make you feel old at all. You guys are absolutely just more experienced than me. I like to think that.
All right. Speaking of experience, Billy Napier, maybe not experienced in the eyes of some LSU people. The thing I'd always heard was he wanted the LSU job, and he's hanging around at University of Louisiana Lafayette, or Louisiana wink wink, as they like to be called. Doesn't get that job, gets the Florida job. He does have a heck of a resume, but I will ask you, what is the hype level around Billy Napier right now?
Right now, I would say it's about a 6.
Oh.
And if it wasn't for the recruiting fascination that you've seen pick up in the last 10 years, and I don't mean the word fascination in a negative in any way, but we just have so many resources, huddle, rankings, camps. Then you factor in Twitter, where you can actually talk to these guys who could be playing in the NFL in 5 years. I mean, that is just, it's a novelty in a sense. And when you bring that in and you can have the reporting of who's on so-and-so's board and the top 5s and the top 8s, when you're replacing a coach in Dan Mullen who didn't win more than 6 games last year, and your biggest rival the last few years, Georgia, is coming off their first national championship since, before I was born, you're kind of be set up for failure more often than not. If you're really caring about all these recruiting battles, if you're really caring about all the off-field stuff, it could be really easy to become less happy with the coach than you'd like to be. In this day and age, it's just kind of exclusive to the internet age that we're in right now. I mean, he hasn't even coached a game at Florida. He's said all the right things. He's identified the issues on the roster. He built a support staff. I mean, when you compare what he did at Florida to Brian Kelly, a lot of people were saying that he won the offseason when he got to Florida. The change in that is been the recruiting faults. I mean, the latest one today, Tony Mitchell, Florida thought that they were going to get him not even in their top 4. A.J. Harris, Florida fans thought they were going to get him, a top 5 player in this class. He goes to Georgia. You look at the offensive linemen that they've built this class with, 3 of the 7 commits, offensive linemen. These passionate fans right now, if they're judging Billy Napier by his recruiting faults, quote unquote, they are probably like a 6 right now. Now, if you don't care about that stuff that much and you're just frankly a big fan of honest approach, a coach who doesn't really kind of have this salesman type vibe, comes out and very genuine and has, it looks like, built the roster well with transfers, getting Osiris Torrance, Montrell Johnson, Cam Waits, and you understand what you have waiting in the wings. Anthony Richardson, DeMarcus Bowman, Jason Marshall. There's a lot to be excited about. But the problem is, guys, so many people are obsessed with recruiting. And if you want to be, no problem with that. But you're going to set yourself up for disappointment more often than not, because your coach is going to go after maybe 200, 250 kids in a class. And ultimately, they're going to sign 10% of that. So if you're really disappointed by 90% of the quote-unquote misses, you could easily sour on your coach. And there's certainly some people, there's a passionate fan base, who have already kind of begin to doubt whether Billy Napier can recruit at a Kirby Smart type level.
Man, wow, opening salvo there from Grant Hall. You can follow him at Grant Hall _ or anywhere you want to consume his coverage of the Gators at the Gainesville Sun.
Well, I'm interested in. It seems like I'm just making a swing at this. That Napier's kind of a guy of integrity, and that NIL and paying players and everything else is probably not down the road he's going.
I hate to disagree with you, but I actually
Okay.
have liked what he said. No, he kind of
Okay.
has come out and said the contrary and said that until the TV markets change and these players can start receiving a portion and they are employees. I mean, he has pretty much come out point blank and said that, which I think a lot of people now that looks like an appealing option rather than this wild, wild west NIL landscape. Maybe if everyone had a set rate that they were paid and they were actually defined as employees, we'd have a little less craziness going on right now. I think that absolutely there's a point to be made with that. Billy Napier, though, I think understands the benefit of NIL for current players more than recruits. I think that's probably
Right,
the
that's what
biggest-
I'm getting at for the recruits.
that is totally correct. That is such
Yeah.
a great
Mhm.
analysis to have, because if you can recruit off of what you're doing for your current players, rather than making these empty promises to recruits or going after the big name or someone with a family pedigree, those kids and their families, the people who are actually making these decisions, are looking around and seeing like, okay, they actually take care of the people who enroll. They reward their commitment with a commitment to bettering them. So often this has become such a year-to-year cyclical business that has kind of been lost by the families. The belief that there's people actually in charge who are going to set my son or daughter up for success down the line. That mindset has fallen by the wayside as we've seen the coaching carousel pick up. So having a coach who, even if they're a transfer coming in on 1 year, is dedicated to getting that individual as many NIL opportunities and endowment opportunities and taking them on abroad trips, like Florida just went to Athens, Greece with a few individuals. Anytime that you see a coach doing that for everyone who's in their program, I think that just is going to translate to the recruiting trail. You see so many people making these short-term decisions. I mean, we got to remember that NIL isn't even a year old, and we already are seeing the multi-million-dollar, allegedly, offers that people feared for so long. I can absolutely understand why they're going to see that tapered back, and you're going to see NIL really just focused on the individual athletes, unless, this is the big key, unless the state laws all follow suit, and then you have the Wild Wild West extend even further, where the desert now encompasses the high school kids. That's really where I think the biggest issues lie, where you can start seeing kids have their entire high school careers uprooted, making decisions on where they're going to play in high school based off of money. I mean, we're talking about 15, 16-year-old individuals. I think that is pretty concerning to me. And so I think that's where a lot of the collective fear comes from right now, that look at already how things are going with prospective freshmen, high school seniors, and the college kids. What happens if this extends to the high school level? We have to figure this out before it's state by state and it's a wild, wild west, depending on where you live.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Went with Graham Hall, Florida Gators beat writer, and that's exactly what I was talking about for recruits coming in who haven't really proven anything. So with all that being said, what are the expectations for his first year, maybe by the fan base or even you guys who are covering him?
I think the biggest thing has kind of been getting people to accept that this is not the Florida of 2008 right now. You're not going to come through and breeze through the Kentuckys and the Vanderbilts necessarily. There is no cakewalk really in the SEC right now. And when you're a team coming off of 6 and 7, yes, I know that Jim McElwain and Dan Mullen took over situations and then won the SEC East. That's not going to happen. Understanding that Georgia is that much ahead in terms of their recruiting and their on-field level of play. I mean, look at, Jalen Carter. I mean, Florida doesn't really have a guy like that. So, even Tennessee, you can make an argument that their roster has more depth right now because of where they're at in terms of stability. So I think getting Florida fans right now to understand that this may be a one-year process has probably been the biggest narrative fight, let's call it that right now, because there's a lot to be optimistic about. Billy Napier, like I said, has done a lot in terms of rebuilding the foundation of the program. Anyone believing that that's going to immediately translate into competing with Georgia or Alabama or, even Tennessee and maybe even Kentucky, look at what they have there on offense again. So I think making people understand that this could be a 6 to 7 win Florida team, that doesn't mean there's a correlation between having the right guy in place or not. Making those 2 points translate to people's minds in a sense, I think has been a constant battle because we've been fed for so long. It's a one-year coaching carousel. You're easily going to be able to tell now whether a coach has it or doesn't. And if they don't, you got to rip the Band-Aid off quickly. I think giving people in this place a patient perspective with Billy Napier is going to be a constant difficulty. I wonder when the general public will get fed up and believe, oh, this is another guy who can't recruit. We're getting beat by Georgia, Alabama, LSU. We have to make a change, where in reality, this may be a two-year build at Florida. I know they don't want it to be like that, but that just may be the reality of the situation. And if Florida wants to get back to the heights of Urban Meyer, Steve Spurrier, they may have to see that investment through to be totally sure or not. And that may be a difficult situation for the next 2 years.
Yeah, I wish him the best. I think he's a really good coach. I guess talk a little bit real quick. The 3 players were dismissed. What were the reasons why they were dismissed from the school? Do you know?
I can't say per se, but I want to say it was due to a possible lack of investment combined with where they stood in the program. These are 3 players who Florida was expecting them to play reserve roles, but again, it was going to be with the second string. You had a situation where Florida was already over the 85 scholarship limit. And Billy Napier I said earlier that he had made a lot of correct public statements. He kind of shot himself in the foot in mid-March when he came out and said that we need players. We need to bring players in through the transfer portal. We're expecting to add double-digit guys. In that time, in middle of March, he expected there to be a lot of attrition after spring camp. Guys were such big fans of the program that you didn't really see that level of attrition that you really were expecting to see. So during the off-season portion of late May and into June, Billy Napier talked to the team and said that it's going to be a very disciplined approach, and he may have to make some tough decisions for guys that are on the fringe or not doing things the right way. Now, the interesting one was that initially, and I can discuss this a little bit, but the word is that initially Marcus Burke, there was some contention about him being among the 4 cuts. And you had team leaders on both offense and defense. I won't say which offensive player stood up for him, but I'll name the defensive player because you saw him publicly come out and say this isn't true. Marcus is still on the team. That's Javon Dexter. I mean, one of your top leaders on the defensive line. You had players coming out and saying, give Marcus Burke another chance at Florida. His family reached out, and Florida has agreed to give him another chance, so he's still on the roster. The other 3 guys, Fenley Graham Jr., Mordecai McDaniel, and Chris Thomas Jr., they are no longer part of the Florida program. That's unfortunately one of the realities of this sometimes, and the business type aspect is that scholarships are year to year. There's no such thing necessarily. You guys know that's a 4-year scholarship, and some guys unfortunately lose their scholarship after 1 year when they thought that they were going to be able to see it through. That is kind of the case here with Florida. The reality, as I just said, though, is Florida still has work to do. There could be some more attrition in the coming weeks. You could see Florida push some guys out because they do want to add to the roster as well before we get here to the preseason camp. So there's going to be some more change before we can look at this thing and say, okay, that's the finalized list.
I'm with Graham Hall, Florida Gators beat reporter.
Is Anthony Richardson ready to be the guy for a whole season at quarterback?
That's a huge question. They've altered the practice regimen for him. How he conducts himself in practice is more how he's going to be used in the game, which is where they have to let him train to reach top speed. I mean, you guys know this. You can't be having guys go 85 to 90% in practice and then expect them to be able to open it up in a game and there be no repercussions or lag or risk of injury there. That's, I think, what Florida has looked back and felt has contributed to a lot of Anthony Richardson's health issues last year, was that they just really didn't have him open it up in practice. And part of that was to keep him healthy, and part of that was that he actually did need off-season surgery on his MCL. So now that has happened, he's healthy. He is much more knowledgeable of the offense. He's more confident. He's more mature. The belief is that Florida he's their starting quarterback. Now, if he is fully ready to go out there and look like Hendon Hooker, or look like Bryce Young, or Will Levis, or any of these guys who are going to raise or lower the ceiling of their team in 2022, I think that is a huge question mark. There's a reason why Billy Napier brought in Jack Miller in the offseason. There's a reason why they have talked about maybe using two quarterbacks at times to give Richardson more of a rest. I don't know if he's going to go out there and have 90 to 95% of the snaps, but he is going to be Florida's starting quarterback, barring injury, on day one. Whether he's ready or not, they hope he is, but it could be a trial by fire type experience.
Graham Hall, our guest at Graham Hall _ on Twitter, Gainesville Sun, covering the Florida Gators.
Well, going into the season, as of right now, what would you say the strength of the team is going to be?
That's a really good question also. Man, I want to say offensive line, and that just sounds so peculiar coming out of my mouth, but I think these guys actually have a luxury because that was such an issue for so long. They had to bring in offensive linemen. Billy Napier brought in Osiris Torrance. If they don't get Osiris Torrance, there's no chance that that's the correct answer. But they actually have 5 guys that they feel very comfortable at being their starter. And one of the weird things is that one of the guys who's going to be coming off the bench, Josh Braun, is someone that was supposed to go to Georgia. Many teams wanted him and could be a starter at multiple positions on the offensive line for a lot of other schools in the SEC. You factor in that they brought in 2 offensive line coaches, both from the NFL, Darnell Stapleton, Rob Sale from the Giants and the Steelers, respectively. That is huge, huge for Florida's hopes. So I would actually say right now that is a strength of the team. I think also you have to give a little more respect to Florida's secondary. I know they lost Kyer Elam. Jason Marshall Jr. is a former 5-star, but they returned 2 starters at safety. Not every team can say that right now. And who they've brought back to play the other corner role, they get Jaden Hill back, who missed all of last year with a torn ACL. He was in line to be the starter last year. They may not miss a beat necessarily in the secondary, and that also is because of the scheme on defense. There's huge optimism that these players, albeit all unproven, may perform at a better rate now that they're no longer in Todd Grantham's defensive scheme.
Graham, hey, fantastic stuff. We're just going to charge you with one task. Go buy yourself like a Motley Crue cassette, drive around, listen to it. Then the next time we have you on, I think we can have a much more meaningful discussion off the top of the segment.
Let's do it. You guys got a deal.
Yes, sir. And thank you. Great stuff. At Graham Hall _ Gainesville Sun, covering the Florida Gators. Football season will be here before you know it. So we're going to start doing a preview of a Vols opponent each week. And can't wait to do it. It'll be here before we know it. When we come back, guess what else will be here before we know it? A NASCAR races this weekend here at the Nashville Superspeedway. Matt DiBenedetto driving the trucks. Going to be driving a segment with us next here on Blaine and Mickey. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Oh, I got a giveaway. You hear this music. Time to hit the road. 104.5 The Zone teamed up with Big Machine Racing to give one lucky winner an ultimate NASCAR VIP experience with Big Machine Racing. Got the chance to meet Tyler Reddick, the driver of the number 48 Spike Cooler Chevy. Be caller 5 now. Your chance to win a pair of tickets to both the Rackley Roofing 200, the Tennessee Lottery 250, plus qualify to win a Tennessee Lottery 250 VIP experience that includes garage pit and hauler tour. Walk the starting grid pre-race experience, the race from pit road. Man, it's going to be a lot of fun. You need to be caller 5 now, 615-737-1045 for a chance to win. Tickets for race weekend are going fast, so call 866-RACE-TICKS or visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com. Let's talk to a guy now who's going to be making some laps on the track. Starting tomorrow night, Matt DiBenedetto joins us. Matt, how in the world are you doing on this beautiful Thursday?
Doing excellent, man. Hope you guys are. It's a big week, to say the least.
Heck yeah. Matt drives the number 25 Rackley Roofing War Chevrolet. How cool is it to get to race basically at the hometown of the people who put their name on your truck? That's got to be a cool thing.
Yeah, I've been laughing this week. I'm like, no pressure or anything. It's only Rackley Roofing 200.
Right. I mean, their name's on the race, but no big deal.
Yeah, no pressure or anything. Rackley Roofing 200. It's our hometown race for our team and all. So yeah, if we were going to win one, I would say we should probably get it done this week.
Well, keep the bosses really happy. It's great to have the sport at all three levels, trucks, Xfinity, and Cup races back in this city where people embrace that sport so much. For you drivers, I would imagine it's very cool to come to these heritage markets and race in front of multi-generations of fans who've always been on board with your sport.
Oh, 100%, man. For years, I've been wanting to come to Nashville and get NASCAR back to Nashville, and we've heard the rumblings of it for so long, and it was too much anticipation. So it's so good to get back here because, like you said, everyone here embraces it. Like, it ain't nothing, and NASCAR and country music surely go hand in hand, so it's been good to be back here.
Well, there'll be a great mix of it all this weekend. Again, starting tomorrow night, you can watch Matt and the guys in the Truck Series out there going at it. Matt DiBenedetto, our guest here on Blaine and Mickey.
Well, Matt, is there any reason you chose the number 25? Anything behind that number, or it's just a random number for your truck?
You know, it's funny you say that because that was the team. You know, the team, it's their second year in existence, so I just came in this year. It's my first year with the team, and that's been their truck number. So no significance to me. But I'm glad you said that because it's funny. I haven't even asked why they ever chose the number 25. So I feel a little silly.
There you go.
Well, naturally, you're in Nashville, so it's always is about the food. So you're a foodie guy. What do you like to eat?
Oh man, I got a spot out here that's probably my favorite. That's Hattie B's Chicken.
Oh, okay, yes. We know that place.
Right up our alley. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I'm a food guy.
Hot chicken?
So yeah, there's so many good spots.
Yeah, you like hot chicken too as well?
Oh, 100%. I just kind of like, I'm just a food guy in general, so whatever you put in front of me, I just love it. I have a passion for food. When we travel, I plan all my stops based on, we're going to this place, we're going to Texas, we're going to Nashville. That means we're eating at this restaurant and this restaurant. So yeah, I'm just a food guy at heart.
I travel the same way.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I guess naturally we have to ask you, going from car to truck, kind of take us through some differences, especially at that speed, or do you have an advantage or disadvantage in, that you've driven cars, or does that even really matter?
Yeah, no, it does. I think, the last, I've been in the Cup Series from 2015 until 2021, and this is my first year in the Truck Series. I've never even driven in the trucks. The biggest difference is really who you're racing, actually, because you got, it's a younger group of guys that are up and coming. You got tons of fast trucks, lots of fast drivers. There's a bunch of competitive teams. There's a lot of fast trucks. So the biggest difference is who you're racing because you have lesser experience. So there's more mistakes made in the Truck Series. You see probably a little more crashes, more mistakes. It's super exciting. The races are shorter, so it feels a little more like a sprint race. So honestly, it's actually who you're racing. I'd say as far as driving the truck, it's not too big of a difference. There are little differences, but I wouldn't bore you with those details. It's like, it punches a little bigger hole in the air. you fight a little dirty air, a little bit more in traffic. But those are the boring details. But I'd say it's more your competition that you're racing around and kind of being aware of more mistakes and not putting yourself in a bad situation is a key. And even though I'm blessed to have a lot of experience, that you always, as you know, man, you got to be a student of the game every week, because just when you think you know it all, that's when you lose.
Do. Yeah, no doubt about it. I guess last for me, kind of more elementary question, but with the weather being hot and everything else, how much does that affect how much you do your tires? I heard some guys say, "Oh man, I had some bad tires." I'm like, "Well, wait a minute now, bad tires. How did you start with bad tires?" So, kind of take us through what the plan is going into a hot a race time.
Yeah, first and foremost is staying super hydrated, being really well hydrated, because when it's in the 90s, near 100 degrees, that means in the truck, I guess I should say, it'll be more like 130 to 140 degrees in the truck. So we will be sweating like crazy, and we need to drink a ton and staying hydrated in the truck under cautions. I have, our insulated water bottle, and we trade those out on pit stops. So those things are really important. And then kind of second part, more pertaining to what you're talking about, is when it's that hot, it really is like, some people may be like, oh, it's just the weather, it's not that big of a deal. I'm telling you, if it's 40 degrees versus 100 degrees, you might as well be on two completely different racetracks. They don't feel the same. They don't drive the same. The grip level is completely different. The way you attack the racetrack setup-wise is different. So, I mean, it's really a huge deal.
No doubt about it.
Matt DiBenedetto, our guest. Hey, what's the Sterling Marlin paint scheme that you ran on your truck was fantastic. I'll ask you, what's your favorite paint scheme that you've ever run?
Oh man, that was up there, one of my favorites, because I remember when I was a kid watching TV, and I was always pulling for Sterling Marlin. Just seemed like a humble hometown kind of guy. And,
be loved around here.
Yeah. So I loved running that one. Another one that was special to me was a few years back. I ran a throwback of Jeff Burton's old number 99 Exide batteries car. That was at Darlington. We ran that throwback, and that was special to me because when I was 5 years old watching NASCAR, that was my favorite car, and Jeff Burton was the guy that I pulled for, and it was so cool to fast forward to being an adult, and I'm still a fan of the sport, and it was so neat to be able to drive that paint scheme live and in person in NASCAR.
That's goosebump type stuff right there. I'll ask you this on the way out again. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, Rackley Roofing 200 Camping World Truck Series race. Matt DiBenedetto will be racing. Then you got Xfinity on Saturday, Cup on Sunday. What's it going to be like for you when everything finally breaks your way and you cross the finish line first and they hand you that checkered flag?
Oh, man, I definitely won't go to sleep that whole entire evening. We've come so close so many times, in my personal career. I mean, so many close calls, so many second-place finishes in the Cup Series, you name it, in close calls, leading on the white flag multiple times. I mean, it's just been an unreal journey, but everything does happen for a reason. I know that, and all the struggles are worth it when in the end. So, but no, I'd say, man, our team has been growing big time. We had some struggles early in the year and a lot of growing pains, but right now it's been neat to see everything coming together. We've been top 10 in them to death here lately, gaining a lot more consistency. And the good news here for you guys, and us talking about Nashville in particular, is we've got probably our newest and most updated race truck that we've put a lot of effort into. So I feel pretty good about this one.
Might as well win the Rackley Roofing race in the Rackley Roofing truck, huh, Matt? It just makes sense. Go get it.
Yeah, good luck.
That's right, man. That's my job. That's what they pay me for. So we got to make it happen for this one. And keep, like you said, keep the bosses happy.
Yes, sir. Hey, good talking to you, and good luck tomorrow night.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a blessed day. I appreciate it.
Yes,
Thanks
sir.
a lot, Matt.
Matt DiBenedetto at Matt D Racing. When we come back, Preds have got new ownership. It is officially official. We'll get into all that and more. It's Blaine and Mickey.
No way.
It is 2:02. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. The long-awaited commitment of five-star quarterback Archie Manning finally came down today, and the nephew of Peyton Manning, son of Cooper, is headed to play for the Texas Longhorns, the number 1 overall recruit in the class of 2023. Preds brass met with the media today for the first time since the announcement that former Tennessee Governor Bill Haslam will become the majority owner of the Predators within the next 3 to 4 years. He'll begin as the minority owner. General Manager David Poyle spoke to reporters as well, stating that a deal has not yet been reached with free agent forward Philip Forsberg. The NBA draft is tonight with first-round coverage starting on ESPN at 7 p.m. The Orlando Magic hold the first pick, with the Grizzlies currently slated to pick at 22. Former Tennessee point guard Kennedy Chandler projected to hear his name called at some point tonight. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. We got an hour. We got less than an hour, like 50-something minutes left of this rascal on a Thursday. So we're like a meteor just shooting towards the weekend on this show.
Oh, man, I'm shooting through that chicken from Little Blue Menu, man. And the carrots, too.
Yeah, but I don't know what they put in their carrots. But
I like the way it must be the way they make their food and their seasoning, because it is tasty. Man, oh, man, it's so good.
Yeah, appreciate them dropping by food. We sampled many chicken wings and also carrots. And I'm sure some of you are thinking, you knuckleheads are wasting stomach space on carrots. These carrots just hit different.
No, this
I don't know what's
marinated. It's those things are nice. Even Lucas's beavers likes them.
I love carrots, just in general.
Is there anything you don't like? I'm just asking. Because Blaine asked you, like, hey, what's your favorite food? And you were like, how much time do we have?
I don't like liver. Like chicken liver?
Chicken liver?
Yeah.
Chicken liver?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that either, growing up especially. And it had this different taste to it. Then it was kind of chewy, even fried.
Yeah.
I didn't like, I'll pass.
Yeah.
Where's the chicken?
Other than that, there's nothing that comes to mind.
My next door neighbor used to buy just like the plastic tub of chicken livers and cut them into little slivers and deep fry them. And I'm country as anything, and I had eaten everything fried, but my people never made livers. My mom didn't like it, so we never had that. So we moved when I was in the 4th grade, and, man, that lady made livers and gizzards. I ate it all.
Mm-hmm. But she would slice it up, too, though. I'm interested to see if I would like it sliced up. It was just because it became, like, chewy.
Right.
And it was like, ooh.
Little bite-sized pieces fried. It is
Yeah.
still kind of chewy,
Right.
but now I'll say this.
Put some hot sauce on it.
I don't put hot sauce. We didn't have hot sauce. We weren't big hot sauce people. I know you like it.
You didn't have hot sauce.
Well, I mean, it was available. It was readily available.
I got
Places
you.
we went, but like I never went anywhere, and it was on the table regularly.
Oh no, it wasn't on the table. It just was in the pantry there. Anything that it probably would make me not really taste the food or make me want to like it, I would put hot sauce on it. Like, dinner food.
Just like, okay, I'm not
like,
crazy
I really
about
don't
this.
want this.
This will
chicken
dress this
liver.
up, and you like the taste of hot sauce.
And I'll just, it'd be like eating chicken in my mind. I'll try to psych my mind out.
I love chicken hearts. Very popular in Brazil to roast little chicken hearts.
I just think of little chickens running around with no heart.
It's little tiny heart, and it's so good.
That's just evil sounding.
You just said you thought about the little chicken's heart.
Yeah.
Because he says they make little chicken hearts. Well, watch this. Well, what do you think about when you're eating that breast?
It's not a little chicken.
Or are you eating that thigh?
It's full size. I'm thinking
or
like
that
a baby
leg.
chicken. He's like Temple of
It don't
Doom
matter if
harvesting their tiny
it's a
chicken
baby
hearts.
chicken or an adult chicken. You eating the chicken.
Running around with its head cut off and its heart cut out.
Boy, Peter's, we're going to be in a lot of trouble today if Peter's listening on this.
Oh, man, come on.
I mean, okay. Is that a country thing in Brazil? Or are these people out like the sticks in Brazil?
No, it's just a popular, Brazilian steakhouse.
I've never had it, though, to
They
be
will come
honest.
around. If it's a real Brazilian steakhouse, it will come around with a giant skewer of little chicken hearts. And people can say it's weird, but people here eat chicken liver. So what's the difference? Heart, liver, it's all
See, I've
organs.
been to Texas Day Brazil. I don't remember the long knife full of tiny chicken hearts.
Yeah,
I can say I've
I
never
think
had
Texas
any
Day
little
Brazil
chicken
is
hearts.
one of the more Americanized Brazilian steakhouses. Still great food.
Next time I go to Brazil, I want to make sure I can get some chicken hearts.
Yeah. Coraçãozinho. That's what you ask for. It means little hearts.
I don't know. I may not win out on that. My wife's trying to go to like Europe or something.
I have a friend who lives on the beach in Athens, Greece. My childhood friend.
What?
My entire life, he's always told me,
He's
"Come
living
on
a
over."
dream.
I could stay with him. I've never been.
I know.
How bad is that?
Just can never find time, and now you got a youngster, man.
Yeah, I'll never
It's gonna
have
be
time.
tough. Yeah, you got to let the grandparents watch him. You go off on a vacay.
Hey man, take that
Then it'd
rascal.
be feeling like not a vacay because the wife is always wondering what the kid's doing.
You know, that's a voice of experience right there.
Oh man, we could go anywhere. I'm like, babe, leave Chase here. No, I'm not doing that. We're gonna let the grandparents watch him. Nope, my mom may drop him. Your mom may smash him. I said, what?
Bill Haslam of
I
a
see how you were
smashing debut as a Preds owner. He took over his portion today. I saw this report from Teresa Walker. He will have a minority share of Preds ownership this fall. The plan is for him to have the majority share in 3 years or 4 years at best. It didn't stream anywhere. So we're just kind of counting on the kindness of our media brethren and sisters.
Was that planned out, Lucas? The way they did this?
A few days ago, I had seen that they were going to have a 10:30 Thursday presser, and me and Buck even talked about it. We're going to carry it live, and there was nothing to carry live. They carried the Poyle-Hines press conference, the postseason wrap-up press conference to talk about the future of the franchise.
So why didn't they do that the same way?
I don't know. I mean, this felt like an even bigger deal than that. I mean, this is such a huge moment in the direction of the franchise. It just
They didn't want any traction on this. I think this was planned.
We get this for position coaches with the Titans.
Right.
That's what they do. Come out on the sidewalk and you just go back and forth. This was the president, the general manager, the new soon-to-be majority owner within 3 to 4 years, and
Herb Fritch, I guess the chairman.
It was those 4 people all in a room at one time talking.
That's what Alex Doherty told us, and because he was there reporting on
Well,
it.
I mean,
at one point,
Alex Doherty says it.
They were all talking at the same time.
Okay, which we tried to run some Poyle audio earlier.
They should have just, get the rumor started. And Trotzy should have just showed up. And then, since he did buy a house here, by the way. Someone told me this last week.
But he's been turning down head coaching jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, tired of coaching, get out of the grind, come back to Nashville. Everybody loves the old Trotzmeister here. And he's got his championship ring. He could show it off. Go down to the coffee shop with his buddies and wear it down there and let everybody see it. So what are the main goals of the Predators' newest owner? Do we have someone to credit this audio to? Is it Alex?
Alex Doherty.
Alex Doherty.
First of all, this is good audio, right?
It is better audio.
Better, yeah.
Well,
better than what we heard before, that mumble jumble.
Okay, let's just see how it goes. This is Haslam on his main goals as he joins the Preds ownership group.
Whether it's this year or down the line.
Yeah, I think one of the things is to make certain that the Preds stay at the very heart of the community. I mean, it really is admirable the way what's happened here. Because that's number one. Number two, we want to compete for the Stanley Cup. Now, I realize, it doesn't work that way. The Lightning and Avalanche are really good right now, but they had some pretty weak years in the past to get to be where they are now. You realize that's part of the ebb and flow of sports teams. But I want to make certain we're competitive and that, we have an organization that's focused on winning at every level. And that's, maximizing the opportunity of the Preds and the brand and what that means. And it's also, this is a pretty special block that Bridgestone Arena sits in, and maximizing the development potential of it as well.
Okay, so him being a businessman, he threw in at the end, this is a really nice block that we've got here. We need to maximize what we make on this block. It's a lot of money to be made on this block. There's a lot of tourists milling around. We're going to cash in on some of that. And Preds fans, I'm sure,
How do we cash in on that?
Ooh, that's a good question. Outside drink sales. I don't know. There's got to be some way that it's a businessman, so he's got to be thinking. But if you're a Preds fan, you're like, I want to hear you say that it's spend all of the money to bring all. Hey, we're going to do whatever it takes to bring Philip Forsberg back. I'm going to pay $9.5 million for 8 years because I'm not cash poor. I got all this money.
My pockets is heavy.
They're heavy. I gotta loosen my load here with my money. So, but it was just things that people say we're gonna.
Well, he's still negotiating, so that's probably why they say the Forsberg part. But I get it. I think that's what he was referring to, that, hey, we got to make some tough decisions, but it's all about making more money. You got to spend money to make more money. So we shall see. I'm hoping they go down this road and bring him back. Man, this would be devastating. I wonder, remember, didn't Poyle say he had a B plan? I'm interested to see what that B plan is.
That he's waiting in this unintelligible soundbite that we ran earlier. You heard a little bit of it. He basically said, I wanted to have it done already. And then it was kind of hard to hear him. But he was like, essentially, if I had it done, then we could be going on and doing everything else. But since it's not, I have to have like a plan B. What's plan B? That's another guy for 6 years and $7 million?
Yeah. Well,
Who's that?
B starts with B, Bizzle, Shizzle.
Are you ready to suit up for the Preds?
Yeah. Suit up and put my
Breaking news right there.
The BBBNS, the Blaine Bishop breaking news sounder.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready to suit up with my suit and tie. I'll assist in some coaching and show them how to just run through people. So if they need some physicality, I'll bring that. That's about all I can bring y'all.
Poyle on the Forsberg front. Here's a quote. You don't have to listen to the audio. I wish it was done. That's the quote that I wrote down that he said earlier.
And so do we.
Free agency
Really?
begins on July 13th. July 13th.
Why isn't it done? He did offer to say that they offered him an 8-year deal. Didn't say the money and what it was per year, but he did say that. So at least we know they're somewhat halfway right in the years. Not on the cash
They
flow.
agree on that, it sounds like. Because you're right.
So
He
maybe
said,
it's 8 and 8 or something. It's just coming up a little short.
It doesn't sound like he wants that Uncle Phil wants the hometown discount. So somebody said in his own TV chat they thought 8 for 9.5, I think, but that's several pages ago. Maybe Lucas can still see it.
8, 9.5. He got it. Come on, man.
8 for 9.5. You signing that today, Lucas? Blaine's a tough GM. He's also a tough athletic director. Would you do that?
I would. Well, I just talked about Big Jeff. He has to give the hometown discount.
Yeah.
So certain players, I'm going to lean and give them a break. And I think we should get a break at certain times, and it's only fair. So I'm going to approach them differently. So I can't say that I'm always a hard GM. It's just about my approaches because it's about the extent of how good the player is. Mm-hmm. And I think I would bend a little bit and say, hey, let's meet halfway in the middle. You want to stay here? We want you here. Let's get this thing done.
8 for 9. 9. 8 for 9. That's the hometown discount.
If I'm the player, I would do it. I would.
Don't even have to move.
No move. And you got to try to sell them on, wherever you go, taxes will be a little different.
Oh, yeah.
You stamp out here in the community. There's a lot of things. We're on the right track. We're not that far. We just need a couple more pieces. Wherever you go, you may have the money, but you're not going to be as close as we are.
Well, we'll be watching. When the Titans, I said this at the beginning of the show, when the Titans changed ownership with Amy Adams-Strunk, it completely changed the course of this franchise.
Totally different. It felt like it was a brand new owner, not within the family.
Same family.
And I said that numerous times on air. I did. So she was on the right track, and she was a big-time business person, not just a businesswoman. And she shows that, she's willing to do what it takes to win. Not only that, but for facilities, whether it's stadium or over at the practice facility. So all that looks like a totally different place compared to when I was there.
All right, when we come back, there's a ton of legal stuff going on in sports right now with Daniel Snyder and Congress and
Goodell.
And
his sheriff, he had to put his badge down. They told him, you no longer, it's been taken.
No, he checked his badge and his gun at that Zoom yesterday.
At the door, huh?
Yes, he did. Daniel Wallach, an attorney involved in a bunch of different places, The Athletic and the Conduct Detrimental podcast and more. He's going to join us next. We'll break down everything here on Blaine and Mickey. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. We got something else to give away, Lucas. We are just making it rain stuff on people. Oh, we're teasing things that we're giving away. 104.5 The Zone teaming up with Big Machine Racing to give one lucky winner an ultimate NASCAR VIP experience with Big Machine Racing. Chance to meet Tyler Reddick, who drives the 48 Spiked Coolers Chevrolet. The Tennessee Lottery 250 VIP experience includes garage, pit, and hauler tour. You can walk the starting grid pre-race and more. Experience the race from pit road, which will be absolutely amazing. I got to do that one time. The coolest thing ever. Tickets are going fast, so call 866-RACE-TICKS or visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com. Be sure to listen to us, Blaine and Mickey, because we're the ones who make all your dreams come true for your chance to win a pair of tickets and qualify for the ultimate NASCAR VIP experience, courtesy of Big Machine Racing. Sorry, it's a lot to get through there, but it's a big deal, just like our next guest, Daniel Wallach. He's a big deal, and he joins us now on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Daniel, have you ever experienced the magic of a NASCAR race from pit road?
I can't say that I have. As a native New Yorker, growing up in Queens and Brooklyn and New York City, there weren't a lot of NASCAR tracks in my neighborhood. So, I was limited to ice hockey. So, no, even though I live in Florida now, I've yet to experience my first NASCAR event ever.
We got to make that happen for you. He is Daniel Wallach at Wallach Legal, the Athletic and Conduct Detrimental podcast, and so many other places. So yesterday we're on the air, and the Goodell stuff is kind of happening in real time. So we're not consuming in real time like a lot of people. So, you go back and you read and you try to come up with some Cliff's Notes. What were your biggest takeaways from the Roger Goodell appearance before Congress yesterday?
That he was very well prepared. Obviously for the 3 hours he testified, it probably was matched by, 30 hours of preparation to make sure he didn't slip up, because Roger Goodell historically has had some difficult moments during press conferences where the league doesn't like to put him out in these unprepared or extemporaneous moments too often. But I think he did his job yesterday in terms of limiting the potential damage to the NFL. He said a couple of things that I think in retrospect are going to be held up to scrutiny. Like, for example, he never adequately addressed the question of why can't you just release the Wilkinson report detailing all of these investigative findings and just redact the names of the witnesses? His talking point has always been, well, there are some people who don't want to have their names revealed and came to us confidentially. And it's a bogus excuse, because it's commonplace for materials that contain sensitive information to have redactions on them, meaning black marks where magic marker straight through it, where you can't even read the name or the narrative or identify who it involves. So those witnesses who wish to have their stories made public can actually do that and at the same time protect the identities of those people who don't wish to be publicized, while at the same time bringing transparency. And I never have understood why the NFL made a big deal out of releasing reports in Deflategate, Bullygate, Bountygate, yet nothing in probably the most serious of those four investigations.
Man, Daniel Wallach joining us here, attorney, breaking down all the NFL's legal, I'll say, troubles and more lately here on Blaine and Mickey.
They don't like people messing with their house, Daniel. Thanks for coming on. I guess, first and foremost, how transparent, was Roger Goodell? I mean, I feel like, I can't, let's say, take this ownership from him, but he can advise the other owners to vote against him, to vote him out, right?
He wouldn't even admit that much.
Right.
He was asked point blank, don't you have the power to force Dan Snyder to sell the team? And he said, I don't have that authority. But what he neglected to say, as many people, including myself, pointed out, is that right there in the NFL Constitution and bylaws, he has the power to recommend to the executive committee of the NFL that he be divested of his ownership interest. He can start the process, and only he can start the process. So he's not the final say on the matter, but he is the sort of the engine that starts that car. And he wasn't being forthright when testifying on that issue before Congress. He said a lot of things that weren't particularly transparent. But ultimately, this committee is all about trying to find out what truly happened over this nearly quarter of a century period in which Dan Snyder, as this hands-on owner, oversaw the most toxic, workplace environments in sports history. And to this day, we still don't know how bad it was. And to just have a slap on the wrist, a $10 million fine, seems to be very underwhelming and not any sense of accountability or justice. So until the hearing was commenced and this investigation was spawned by the NFL's refusal to release any of the details of the investigation. And it's going to come out one way or the other, either through the subpoena power of Congress or maybe John Gruden in his own lawsuit against the National Football League will be able to get at these materials. Because remember, the emails that were sent to the Wall Street Journal and New York Times, in which Gruden is portrayed as a racist, misogynist individual, that came out of the Commanders' investigation. So eventually the gig will be up, and we'll find out what really happened. So this has been this battle by the National Football League and by Dan Snyder to keep this information concealed from the public. And the objective of Congress, while it's ultimately, the stated purpose is to help workers and protect workers with new federal laws, the real, I guess, underlying objective, sort of if you really want to get at the full truth here, is to force the NFL and the Commanders to release the investigative materials. That's the objective, short term and long term, and eventually that will happen. And right now, we're getting a little bit closer because for the first time, Congress is exercising its subpoena power, because right now all they've been doing is extending the courtesy of invitations and voluntary compliance. So 7 months later, we're now on the doorstep of the first court-ordered or congressional-issued subpoena being given to one of the witnesses in this case, and that's going to be Dan Snyder. So we may get a little bit closer to some kind of finality here, or some court case that will decide whether these materials have to be turned over to Congress.
Well, Daniel, after listening to all that and with how slow our judicial system is, eventually when the rubber meets the road and they know they have to give up these reports from the Commanders, do their investigation, can they still find a way to weasel out of that? Like, is there we're going to force him out and he's going to sell the organization, or something that can halt all that happens, let's say a year or two down the road, if we even get to that point? Can they figure a way to get out of it legally?
Yeah, running out the clock is one goal. I mean, remember, this is a House Oversight Committee that is being led by the Democratic part of the House Oversight Committee. If the elections yield a different party in control of Congress, then this congressional investigation is going to be ground to a halt, and it won't go anywhere. So part of the goal of Dan Snyder is to basically play defense and to stall, delay appearances, and then if he's subpoenaed, he'll file a federal court lawsuit, which will delay things even more, because if he loses in one round, he'll take an appeal to the Federal Court of Appeals, and then maybe go to the Supreme Court, all with the objective of avoiding any compelled testimony or production documents. I mean, in the impeachment proceedings with Donald Trump, there are a number of witnesses who successfully deployed that tactic. And while they may not have eventually won their individual lawsuits on the merits, just by filing the lawsuit and resisting the subpoenas, they were able to run out the clock and accomplish their goal of not testifying. And I think Dan Snyder is probably going to proceed down a similar route. I have more faith in John Gruden successfully getting these materials than this House Oversight Committee, which is really facing a couple of obstacles here: the passage of time, the potential loss of power following the elections, and then there's no guarantee that a court will agree that Dan Snyder should turn over these records or voluntarily submit to live testimony before Congress, because there are some legitimate questions being raised as to whether the House Oversight Committee has exceeded its authority. Congress's main job is to write laws, not to conduct, investigations into individual private companies. They're not law enforcement. They're not prosecutors, and you can't single out private individuals for retribution under the guise of passing new federal laws. So it's that Dan Snyder could have a winning argument this is nothing more than, I hate to use the word witch hunt, but this is nothing more than a selective, targeted investigation that's designed to harass, embarrass, and punish the accused, rather than to seek information that is designed to help American workers in general and to provide broader workplace protections. I mean, you could say what the purpose is, but in reality, it might be seen as more targeted towards the Washington Commanders. So he's going to argue that, and he's going to argue that all the documents themselves are covered by the attorney-client privilege, and there's a question over whether that doctrine, which applies in lawsuits, extends to congressional proceedings. So the next phase of this saga is likely to play out in a court.
But Daniel, man, that was great information. I didn't have that even thought to ask you that, but as I was listening to you, man, I feel like this is going to go to a screeching halt and dead end at some point. Well, with the Gruden case, I guess kind of take us through how that process could actually play out. As you mentioned, it could help Gruden that he actually gets through the reports. And what did it say in the reports that, why they brought the lawsuit against him? What did it actually say in there?
Well, his lawsuit accuses the NFL and Roger Goodell of leaking emails from the Washington Commanders investigation to make him look
What did
look
it actually
bad.
say in those emails, though? That's what I'm getting at. What did it say?
Oh, I don't remember exactly, but I think racist, misogynistic. They were very crude emails in which he made disparaging racist comments about DeMaurice Smith. He referred to Roger Goodell, in very unflattering ways, using coarse language and just a lot of sexist type of stuff. I mean, the type of information, if you put in a company-wide email, would get you fired. Mm-hmm. But he made these statements, as bad as they were, when he was a broadcaster for ABC 10 years before he ever got fired. He made these statements through an email when he wasn't even an NFL employee.
Yeah.
So his lawsuit is all about finding out who was the source of weaponizing these emails and selectively leaking them and releasing them to various media publications in order to put pressure on Raiders owner Mark Davis to fire Roger Goodell. So he one of the first battles in the Gruden case is over arbitration, and the NFL has filed a motion to try to take the entire lawsuit that Gruden filed and shift it entirely into private arbitration before none other than NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. They argued that that Gruden's coaching contract, just like your player contract back in the day, has an arbitration provision that mandates that any disputes between the employer and the employee have to be settled by arbitration under league rules. And the NFL lost that argument. The Nevada judge rejected the notion that someone who was no longer an employee of the NFL or a team had an obligation to arbitrate disputes with the National Football League. So the bottom line, that this case is now going to go forward in a public setting, in a trial court, in a judicial proceeding in Nevada. And the NFL is going to appeal that ruling. But if Gruden is able to avoid getting his case tossed out on appeal, the next step in the process is to serve discovery demands, demands under the court process to turn over all of the investigative materials from the Washington Commanders investigation, anything that could bear on the issue of who weaponized these emails to force John Gruden out of his job.
So the Gruden investigation could be the Debbie Downer to Goodell and the Commanders. Man.
No question, but I don't think Gruden needs every single document that bears on sexual misconduct that doesn't involve any of his communications. I mean, his communications are like a needle in the haystack. So there's going to be a big discovery battle over what portions of these investigative materials actually bear on John Gruden and how broad his fishing expedition can be. Can he get, will he be able to look at everything, or just those emails that happen to mention him? I mean, at this point, we don't have discovery demands or discovery requests yet to know exactly what Gruden's legal team will be seeking, but that remains a sort of a dark horse candidate to be the forum through which the NFL's investigation of the Commanders can see the public light by using the court-ordered discovery process in a civil lawsuit, because that case is going to go on for years potentially, while the congressional investigation may shut down by the end of 2022, depending upon the election results.
There you have it, Daniel Wallach.
Hey, on the way out, we got about a minute left, and this is fantastic stuff. We're all watching the Deshaun Watson thing as well. How long do you think he gets suspended? And does the fact that, 20 of 24 cases will be settled, what does that, or how does that affect what might or might not happen?
It has an impact because each alleged incident of sexual misconduct is a separate offense. Remember when Ezekiel Elliott was suspended for 6 games for the incident with sort of his ex-girlfriend, and that was one incident. And there was somebody from his past that made a similar accusation. And under the personal conduct policy, if you have a second offense, that can act as a multiplier and transform a 6-game suspension into potentially a lifetime career banishment. So under the existing personal conduct policy, any multiple offenses, even if they're all involving similar time frames and similar factual allegations, they're all separate allegations of separate personal conduct policy offense. So that's the risk he faces, that if you settle 20 out of 24, that doesn't buy you closure in the National Football League, because the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th can constitute their own separate offenses. And then what if new people sue? Supposedly he saw 66 massage therapists over a 2.5-year period, and settling 20 cases doesn't give you a waiver or a full exoneration for the other 46. It only provides you closure with the 20 that you've settled. So that's the risk that Deshaun Watson faces. But I got to tell you, he's already sat out a year.
He was getting paid, though. He was getting paid.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. I mean, Blaine, you played, and getting paid isn't the same thing as suiting up with your teammates, because if you're sidelined for a full year, there's a little bit of ring rust that builds up, and you lose some progress. You lose out on career accomplishments, the possibility of competing for championships. And if you suspend them for another year based on nothing more than a civil lawsuit, you've got 2 years of total inactivity, which is basically a 2-year suspension in a career that might last 10 to 15 years. So that's like 20% of his career, when none of this ever resulted in a criminal prosecution. It was just a civil lawsuit brought by, albeit 24 people, but all represented by the same attorney and all telling basically the same story. So I would argue, if I were Deshaun Watson, that this is not fair and consistent discipline, because other owners, like the personal conduct policy of the NFL applies to everybody, not just the players. It applies to the owners, team officials, representatives, anybody in the organization. And how could you suspend Watson for 2 years for alleged conduct that Robert Kraft, Jerry Jones, Dan Snyder committed? And you know how many games the 3 of them collectively were suspended for? 0.
Yeah.
And that's going to be, I think, one of his main attacks on any discipline. Of course, I think the smart thing for the league and for Watson to do is to negotiate a compromise resolution where maybe Watson agrees to 6 games, he can't appeal it, and that will be the end of it. But if the league tries to suspend him for a full year, the lead argument is definitely going to be the fair and consistent discipline, because it's part of the CBA. And in Bountygate, for example, former Commissioner Paul Tagliabue set aside some of the discipline because there was disparate treatment in the fact that the league had historically fined teams but didn't suspend players. And he used that precedent of selective enforcement to set aside the discipline when a player was suspended for the same conduct that in the past only the teams were fined for. And Barbara Jones in the Ray Rice case, in her arbitration decision, she recognized the importance of fair and consistent discipline. So Watson's primary, or one of his main arguments, is going to be that disparate discipline is a violation of labor law and a violation of the CBA.
Daniel, fantastic stuff. We're a little bit over, but I know everybody, this was fantastic stuff. Thank you for the time, man. Great stuff. Daniel Wallach at Wallach Legal. Follow him. The Athletic writing their conduct detrimental pod in other places. Thank you, sir, for the time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure as always. Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir. Man, that was good. All right, when we come back, the number 1 overall football recruit has made a decision, and there's a huge athletic event tonight that apparently a bunch of you don't know about. We'll let you know what it is. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Arch Manning, he's hot for the teachers at the University of Texas. He is committed to the University of Texas. He's the number 1 recruit in 2023.
Blaine's face just now.
This song is called Hot for Teacher. He didn't have his headphones on, so he couldn't hear the music.
It wasn't plugged in all the way.
Yeah, it wasn't plugged in. So he's like, wait a second, Hot for Teachers? What?
Well, yeah.
Sorry, I was using the Van. I'm just being a cheesy radio guy. That's it. That's all I'm doing. No surprise. I think he's been connected to Texas forever, but he will get to play in the SEC because Texas is going to get there eventually.
Yeah, well, would it be his junior year? They got 2 more years, right? So he will be.
That contract expires as far as the conference goes in 2025, but who's to say it can't be earlier?
Well, he'll at least get, at worst case scenario, 1 year.
Yeah.
In the SEC.
Hook 'em horns, man.
Yeah.
They got him. They got the number 1 guy. No pressure on him, but literally all the pressure in the world. Now, he may be some laid-back kid, but hey, man, you're a Manning. Super Bowls.
I would say he's done it thus far, so I don't know if it really, what is he, the number 1 recruit overall?
He is number 1.
And quarterback, that's already a lot of pressure there. So, granted, the pressure continues to grow, but come on now. He's a Manning.
Man, oh, Manning. Arch is headed to the Longhorns. If you're younger, you're thinking, why? Well, once upon a time, and historically, Texas is a powerhouse, and historically, money-wise, nobody has more of it than the University of Texas. They typically are the largest budgeted athletic program in the country. Yep.
Oh, that's why the beef between them and A&M. Yeah. Who has longer money?
Boy, that's a lot of money, Ben. That's just all the money in the world. Also, tonight, I asked this question earlier on the Blaine and Mickey Twitter. Are you aware that the NBA draft is today? 72% said no. They did not know.
I'm going to be honest. I did not know until 2 days ago.
Okay. Well, you know
today,
why? Though.
Oh, know why? Because it was commercial. I was like, oh, dang, why don't I know that the draft is today? 2 days ago, I was saying that.
I found out 2 days ago, too. I saw Tennessee basketball's Twitter put something out there.
And I was just like, oh, man, this is horrible. This is horrible that nobody even really cares, really.
Orlando picks first, and OKC picks second, and Houston picks third. Get ready for like a bunch of talk about upside from guys you've never heard of and places you've never heard of. Although it's a bunch of college guys at the top. Chet Holmgren, who's funny to look at because he's just the tallest, skinniest dude ever. 7 feet tall. Paolo Banchero, 6'10" forward from Duke. Jabari Smith, the forward from Auburn. And Jaden Ivey, who I saw with a really nasty dunk earlier. Those are kind of the 4 guys at the top. And he's 6'4", shooting guard from Purdue. He's an interesting cat. All these guys can do some stuff. Obviously, they wouldn't be in this position. Kennedy Chandler, I've seen ranked anywhere from 20 to 25. And for Vandy folks wondering about Scottie Pippen, like around 60 is where I kind of saw him rated.
No, some people are saying he may not get drafted, and that may be a good thing. I think he comes in at, one of those unprotected, try to make the roster, which probably, he'd probably have a better shot that way. But hopefully he gets drafted. Second round doesn't get guaranteed contract when you say 60, so.
Get ready for 8 million trades and people taking on money and just – the NBA is a never-ending math problem. It's
People
just
wearing the hats of the teams they're not going to play for.
We'll never even go to that city till they play in that city with the team where they wind up playing. As it is, though, we got to get out of here. So get your NBA draft popcorn ready for tonight to watch the NBA draft. I'm sure it'll be on ESPN. They're big on that kind of thing.
Yeah.
3HL, they're next. I'm sure Ron Slay's going to break it all down. So just stick around for that because it's coming.
Yep. And in the meantime,
in between time,
as always,
you know it.
Peace.